Hey, what's up you guys? You're watching Team APS. I'm Paul, and in today's video, we're going to talk a little bit about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Ban list, specifically the semi-limited list and whether or not it should still exist in 2019. But first things first, I want to give a huge shout out to the Team APS channel members on YouTube. For those of you guys who don't know, for $4.99 a month, you can help support the channel. It lets us get new gear, it helps us go to events, and we really appreciate it, and there are even some perks involved. If you're interested in that, just press the join button right beneath the video or check the description for more details. We currently have 9 channel members. I'm hoping to increase that a lot and interact more with you guys, so it'll be fun. All right, so the semi-limited list. Well, I think before we talk about that, maybe we should talk a little bit about the ban list in general. So Yu-Gi-Oh's ban list has been around for years and years and years. This is nothing new. We have 3 different places a card can be on the ban list. I guess technically 4 if you count a card just being off the list. So if a card is banned, then that means you can use 0 copies of it. It's too strong, it's not allowed. Either it was just too powerful on its own, maybe it's part of some crazy loop or OTK or FTK or whatever. It just made the game unpleasant to play. There's plenty of cards in the ban list and you can point to many different reasons why they're there. There's also the limited list, which means that a card can be used at 1 single copy. This is usually used to either, make a deck less consistent or just make a card not show up so that the deck is watered down in some way. So, when you look at cards like, say, Elemental Hero Stratos, if this was at 3, then you would see it a lot more often and make heroes a lot more consistent, but Konami feels that it shouldn't be at 3, it should be at 1. And usually when a deck gets hit, this is kind of where people start to look. They want to put a card on the limited list so you don't see it very often. It cuts the deck's consistency. Maybe the card isn't so powerful that it needs to be banned, but people definitely think it should be here. An example of something like that right now would be maybe Sorry Yuya, right? Like, so a lot of people think, oh, we'll limit this card so you can't use multiple copies. It's fine at 1, but, just not like at 3. Then you have the semi-limited list, and this is what I'm going to be mostly talking about today. If a card is semi-limited, that means you can use 2 copies of it in your deck. And in Yu-Gi-Oh history, this has been used to curb a number of sort of problematic cards, but right now we've got, I want to say only like 5 cards in the semi-limited list. I believe currently it's Destiny Hero Malicious, Luster Pendulum, Necroface, Super Polymerization, and Terraforming. And so those are the 5 cards that are on the list. We can quickly go through why each one's on, although for some I'm really not entirely sure. So Luster Pendulum, I don't understand. That card's been pretty dated for a while now. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes off of the semi-limited list quickly. Necroface makes some sense. When it's used in devoted strategies, it can be really annoying. Necroface mill, if it gets banished, then your opponent has to banish the top 5 cards of their deck. Well, both players do, but you're aiming to mill your opponent out with it. And some other shenanigans like that. Terraforming is at 2, which means that you'll see it a little bit less often than if it's at 3. I guess this was a means of, curbing the power of field spells, namely things like Union Hangar or Dragonic Diagram, those really strong field spells. And then Super Poly, which was actually at 1 before and then recently came to 2, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it come to 3. The last card, though, that's the most important one is Destiny Hero Malicious, which has, in my opinion, a very justified and specific purpose for being on the semi-limited list. You can, of course, banish Malicious from your graveyard to summon another copy of Malicious from your deck. And then, once that copy of Malicious is in the grave, you can banish it and do it again. And so, by putting Malicious at 2, you can do that combo, or that play, or effect, I guess, rather, one good time, get 1 use out of it, and that's it. So when you saw the rise of really powerful warrior link, extra link strategies and stuff, you could basically use something like Armageddon Knight, send Malicious to the graveyard, banish Malicious summons itself, and then you can use that to make Isolde, then Malicious can banish and get another Malicious, and you can link up from there, make Summon Sorceress, other crazy things. Obviously Summon Sorceress is banned now, but that was kind of the gist. And so Konami reasonably put it to 2. It's actually been at 2 and then at 3 in the past before, kind of around Teledad and Dark Arm Dragon Zombie days, but went 3, Links came out, back to 2. And there are other cards that are in the same boat. Reborn Tengu, for example, during Plant Synchro's era, was another card that went to 2 for a long time. So Reborn Tengu, when it leaves the field, summons another Reborn Tengu, and that's the gist of it. So by putting it at 2, you couldn't float that much, and now the card at this point is kind of power crept out and nobody really uses it anyway. So it's at 3. I think the problem with the semi-limited list, though, is that when it comes to actually balancing a deck, it doesn't usually do much. So in the malicious example, yes, it is curbing a very specific sort of problematic abusable card, but if you wanted to make a deck less consistent by hitting something onto semi-limited, or like any other card, like you just want players to see it less often, I don't really think the semi-limited list does a great job of it. We've seen some interesting examples. Cards like Called by the Grave, for instance, went to 2 sometime last year, and then it went back to 3 randomly. Let me get back on. So that was a very odd, like I didn't really understand what that was about. I mean, I guess they didn't like it being so powerful as a tool like for combo decks to stop hand traps. But then like randomly they put it back to 3, so like I don't really know what that was about. We also saw Max C, very infamous card. It went to 2 for a time, and then it went to 1, and then it got banned. It was weird because I guess for Max C, it's just kind of like, I don't know why they put it. I really don't. Like, I mean, maybe it was just, okay, maybe players will see this a little bit less often. It still seemed to be an issue. And I mean, there have been some other cards that have like been at 2 for consistency purposes, like keep a deck balanced. One that comes to mind, for instance, is Atlantean Dragoons. For Mermails, that was at 2 for a very long time, and it finally went to 3. And you see Mermails aren't winning anything, but for a long time, I guess that was a good way to keep the deck in check, ensure that it wasn't able to just search and search and search and search and search. And I think maybe part of the reason for that was because Dragoons did not have a hard once return on its effect. In theory, it was very easy to send 3 Dragoons in one turn and get like 3 searches sometimes. So see, when Neptibus came out, that would have been, that's a big problem. So, went to 2, finally at 3, not a big deal. We've also seen the semi-limited list shrinking a lot in recent years. I mean, like I said, there's like 5 cards on it now. And some of those cards I really think could be off. I mean, Luster Pendulum and the other ones I mentioned could really probably be at 3 and be A-okay. So it just makes me wonder, like, do we still need a semi-limited list for anything other than malicious? And really, could malicious even be at 3 and let's just not have it? That's what I'm kind of curious about, and I want to know you guys' thoughts on. So as for me personally, I really think that it really might as well just be called the malicious list at this point. Like, there's one card there that really deserves to be there, and everything else just seems like it's for the sake of having it. I think in the past, I think in the past, it definitely was maybe more justified. I think when the game was a little bit slower paced, like putting a card to 2 meant that in an extended game, you would not necessarily see a card as often over the course of many games, and so putting it to 2 could be a very viable way of hitting it. And the OCG does still seem to use its semi-limited list a little bit more than the TCG does, like sorta kind of, but or at least in the past it has. But even then, I mean, it's not like huge over there now, and I don't know, I think it really doesn't seem like it serves like any super direct purpose. Especially now that in Yu-Gi-Oh! So many things have the hard once per turn built into them, except for Sky Striker, Mobilize, Engage. But, so many cards have like those hard once per turns built in that really, I don't think that putting something to 2 does a whole lot. There are cards that like in the past I wanted to see put to 2 just to kind of see how it goes, but I'm not really sure that I can think of anything right now. And with Link Monsters, for instance, I mean, they already have another problem of like, they're hard to even limit. Like, most problematic Link Monsters, like Summon Sorceress and, that kind of thing, they've had to get banned outright. Because even if you limit Summon Sorceress, it doesn't matter, people were only running 1. And same goes for something like Nightmare Mermaid that a lot of people want to see get hit, or like Rusty Bardiche. If it got limited, it wouldn't really change much of anything. Most people only run 1. So, Links are, I don't think we'll ever see like a Link monster get semi-limited. Like, that doesn't seem like that would make much sense. Same goes for extra deck monsters in general. I mean, I don't think like any extra deck monster being semi-limited changes much. Again, there have been times in the past where that was a relevant thing, but not so much anymore. And the game's also very extra deck centric, so since those tend to be the problem cards, they miss out on being, semi-limited as well. Spell and trap staples, that was another big thing. I remember when cards like Torrential Tributes, Mirror Forest, the Solemn cards, Bottomless Trap Hole, when those were kind of bigger issues, when traps were relevant, you might say, putting those on the semi-limited list, that made a big difference. I remember Bottomless Trap Hole being at 2 for a very long time. MST has been kind of on and off in different numbers, but I don't really know that any card right now, just given the state of Yu-Gi-Oh, needs to be on the semi-limited list. So yeah, with the ban list coming up just around the corner, presumably, I'm really interested in what you guys think about that. Do you guys feel like Yu-Gi-Oh's semi-limited list even needs to exist anymore in 2019? Is there a very good purpose for it outside of malicious? What cards would you like to put on the semi-limited list that you think would actually make a difference being there? Like maybe Terraforming is a pretty decent example of one, but I'm kind of hard-pressed to think of others. Anywho, that's all for the video. I feel like I've gone on long enough about it. So, yeah. If you guys liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, give it a thumbs down. Twice, please. And yeah, be sure to follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Lots of updates and behind the scenes there. Again, consider joining as a channel member on YouTube. It's $4.99 a month. It helps support trips. It helps us improve our content. We really do appreciate it. If you buy any custom stuff from Inked Gaming, use the code APS10 for 10% off. And buy all your cards from TCG Player, specifically using the link in the video description. It helps us out just a wee bit. Alright, that's actually it. I will see you guys in the next one. I'm very interested in hearing what you all think about Yu-Gi-Oh's semi-limited list and what we have in store for us in the next ban list. Alright, see you then. Bye guys. Pass turn.